went into the office, and like was just bawling, and then everybody at the office gave me a standing ovation. I had cupcakes and champagne. It was just everyone was just really happy. My parents were just so proud. My grandparents called me. They were happy.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome back to Hanging Out with Successful Bar Exam Takers. And apparently we've gone to Galaxy's Edge today to talk to a brand new successful New York bar exam taker, Jennifer Grace. Hi, Jennifer. How are you?
I'm awesome, Jackson. How are you?
Good. I think the Star Wars backdrop is perfect for what we're going to talk about today because you really feel like you've been to the Galaxy's Edge, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. Well, why don't you tell everybody what your good news is?
So I just found out in the last week or so that I passed the New York bar exam. I am over the moon, happy, screaming to the mountaintops, happy.
On your way to Endor. I don't know.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, this has been quite a journey for you. This has not been an easy, quick trip, not to belabor the analogy, but I'd love it if you would tell our audience a little bit about your background, how the bar process got started for you, and sort of a little bit of the trip or the journey that you've been on to get to here.
Sure. So my journey started about 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I graduated law school in 2015. I engaged in one of the big box bar reviews. I'll leave them nameless for now. But I took the course and I felt lost. I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't really feel like it was speaking to me, and I wasn't really absorbing the materials. I was memorizing a lot of things, but I didn't really know how to apply it. I originally sat for the California bar and I felt completely overwhelmed and I was unsuccessful and it was really hard. But a part of me is really a fighter, and so I kept trying. But I think the definition of insanity, as you say, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And so that was basically the process for me for about 2 years, is just persevering, studying, using the same materials, and trying again and not being successful and being really frustrated with myself, just not knowing what I was doing wrong. And it took a really long time, and actually to complete this course, to realize that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I just wasn't exposed to a learning style that was really effective for me. And so I took the California bar for 3 attempts and was unsuccessful. I then switched to New York when they announced that they were doing the UBE, still doing the same approach, and was also unsuccessful. And so I had a bit of a dark period, not really knowing what to do. I've been years out of law school at this point. A lot of my friends and colleagues have kind of surpassed me professionally, and really just feeling a little bit lost. And so thankfully, my boss, who is my biggest cheerleader, had mentioned that she had taken this course years ago from this wonderful guy in Celebration, Florida, and that I should consider taking this course because it's a different way of thinking about the bar exam. And I am so glad that she made that recommendation, because here I am today talking about being successful after so many years of trying.
Yeah, it's an awesome experience, and to watch you grow through the process has been just incredible for me. You know, I think you're a great example, Jennifer, of somebody who's really smart, really hardworking, really dedicated, and sometimes there's just a complete mismatch between a student's learning style and the approach of a particular course, and you know, they're like ships passing in the night. And so once we got a course structure that really spoke to you and made sense to you, then it was like watching you just blossom into this and gain confidence and see so many good things going on. It must have been quite a moment when you found out you passed the New York bar. Did it make all of that, you know, all of the journey, all the difficulties somehow seem worthwhile at that moment?
It did, and that's actually a funny story. I actually didn't check my results. My colleague sent me a congratulations text on the Friday after I received an email confirmation, and I just burst into tears because I was so overwhelmed, overjoyed. I finally felt like I was free after years of just being of just struggling. And yeah, I can't express how happy I am and how proud of myself I am for just keep going and never giving up. It's really easy to give up. and to kind of live in your own misery, but it's really hard to push through. And I really felt with this exam, I fought my way through. I believed in myself. I had the right people around me to motivate me, keep me focused, and it really made the difference.
Yeah, it's pretty terrific. Now, you live in California. You obviously decided to switch from the California bar to the New York Uniform Bar Exam. And one of the benefits of that, beyond the fact that it's just a 2-day test instead of a 3-day test that California was doing, and a lot of other things that make this test a little more manageable, is the fact that your score is portable. So have you figured out how many states yet you can wave into if you wanted to?
Um, not yet, but that did cross my mind of having passed New York and that they having like the higher requirements. It's like, oh my goodness, I can just practice everywhere.
Yeah,
If I
you
really
really
wanted
can. Yeah.
to.
It's pretty amazing. I mean, you start looking at it, you're going, well, okay, yeah, DC, check, Illinois, check, New Jersey, check, and you just keep going on check, 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 check. So that's a pretty amazing experience. And I think it's important, this strategy that you employed of switching out of the California exam is one that we've suggested to people. The California test is brutally, brutally difficult. And very few people are passing. I mean, out of the, 8,000, 9,000 bar takers, 1,000 are passing. So having bar licensure somewhere else, and certainly in a state like New York, gives you instant credibility, even if you're living in California, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a great feeling. And of course, if you want, if you're crazy enough to go back and take the California bar, you certainly could do that. And in a couple of years, you'll be eligible for the California attorney's exam. So, but that's down the road. We're not going to make you think about that today. Well, let's talk a little bit about the study process and what was different for you working with us at Celebration Bar Review than the approach that you had used previously on your other attempts on the bar. What stood out to you as being different?
I think what was pretty radical and against kind of what I've been taught is that you don't necessarily need to memorize the law to be successful on the exam. And I've always been, the very good student, read everything multiple times, had pages of notes and everything. I'm very type A, and that was just my style. And so to go into the resources and the study materials with the mindset that I don't have to memorize this was a game changer for me. And I really try to just embrace all of that because it's like, well, I've tried my way for years and it hasn't been working. What do I have to lose by switching things up? Um, I also embrace photo reading.
Yeah, let's talk about photo reading because that's always interesting for people to hear about. Tell us about what photo reading is and how you used it.
I'd say it's a different approach to absorbing copious amounts of material. I think it's really being mindful of the task and the information that you're trying to absorb at a particular resource and being effective in the way that you understand it, you learn it, and apply it. I think is the best way I can describe it, at least from my experience. And so I signed up for the course and was very diligent in practicing it every day. And I think as I got into it and was skimming through the materials or skittering, I picked skittering, that was my my tactic
Mhm.
of choice. I was surprised how much that by kind of letting go of traditional ways of learning, that how much I was able to remember, or at least trust myself that I was able to remember. And I even remember sitting during the exam, getting a new topic and not being terrified of the complexities of an issue because it's like I have it in my brain. I have been practicing, I have been consistent, I've used this new method where I can recall the information without any sort of forced concentration. I will be okay.
Yeah, and it certainly made a difference for multi-state in answering MBE questions, made a difference in writing essays, I think, for you as well, right?
Yeah, I did definitely say my MBE score went up dramatically from previous attempts. I remember, I think one of the final practice exams, remember taking it with another years ago with another bar review course. Because I remember the questions after I went through and reviewed it. And I think I improved my score maybe by like 50, 60 points or something like that.
Wow.
It's been
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think at that moment I was like, oh, I can actually do this. It's it's the first time I actually felt that. And even during the exam, it was so easy to go through the different answer choices because things literally jumped off the page for me. And I finished, within 2 hours, and leisurely used another 30 minutes to check some of the ones that I'd skipped over, which is
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, so that's when they say to you, "Oh, don't give up," and you say, "Well, no, I'm done."
Yeah. I just left, and it was like done with the exam. It's like,
That's kind of a cool feeling, though, isn't it?
yeah, I think I went to a local restaurant and then had a glass of wine while the exam was still going on because I was
That's
done.
Yeah, that's very cool. Very cool. Yeah, photo reading is a game changer, I think, for people that really buy in and use it. And you did that. Another tool that you used were the paraliminal audio recordings that were designed to deal with just getting at your non-conscious and sort of moving some barriers and blocks out that you might have had consciously. Can you talk about the paraliminals a little bit? Any favorite ones that you had?
I'm trying to think. I pretty much went through all of them. I guess I can start by saying how I use them. So I kind of I had it like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I had my morning paraliminal, my lunchtime paraliminal, and my evening time paraliminal just to be consistent. And I think that really helped. I still can use them today, months later. But I think my biggest problem was that I'm constantly in my own head and in my own way. And it was just this, this voice, very calming voice, very positive voice that was kind of like, a little cheerleader that over time I start to be able to believe these things. So it's like I am, successful, I am focused, I am in charge. And it's like things that like, after you hear it over and over again, you start to really internalize. And I think during the exam, I used the 10-minute recharge.
Yeah, supercharger, right? Yeah.
Charger just in between, just to have that little burst of energy. I think that one was the most effective for me, just because it's a it's a short video, or it's a short paraliminal, but it was really effective and powerful and really tapped into a part of me that I needed to have some sort of support in. So
Yeah, it's my favorite as well. I love it. It just sort of boom. Okay, I'm awake. It's better than a cup of
yeah.
coffee. So that's very cool. Yeah, I think one of the interesting things in working with you, you chose our personal coaching plan. So you and I had 15 video calls, always with a different backdrop. By the way, folks, Jennifer was very good about picking interesting backdrops for our calls. But in those calls, one of the things that I saw happening and evolving for you was going from doubt about yourself and disappointment in what had been happening to you, to starting to sort of open up and begin to see that you could do it, and then gaining encouragement and gaining confidence and really feeling like you were ready. And then in the last few days before the exam, when we talked, you were so calm and peaceful and just like, I'm ready to do this. I know I can do it. I'm prepared. I've got it. What did that feel like for you as you're getting ready to sit for the exam? Did you have that sense of, yeah, I think I got this time?
I certainly did. I think the transformation personally was remarkable in the sense that it was unexpected. I think, having failed so many times before, I had accepted this false reality that I was incapable. And when I started to see results, and very much data driven in my real life, it was like, oh, I can't actually do this. And I'm seeing it consistently, and it was just, it felt like this weight had been lifted because I was doing what I was supposed to, and I was increasing my scores, my speed when it comes to writing. I was retaining more information. And I don't know if I mentioned this to you, by the time I got to the exam, I was so calm that I was doing yoga in the side corner because I was relaxed and focused. I was
That's
freaking
nice.
everyone out, but I was great.
That's awesome. That's the way it should be. Let's talk a little bit about the writing style, because you had been trained on IRAC style writing. That's what you'd used before. And then we switched you up to a style of writing that we teach with using facts and arguments and application. What was that switch like for you?
It's funny. I think I have two writing styles. I have the IRAC legal brain path, and then I have what I do in my day-to-day job. And my day-to-day job is similar to the writing style that you teach. And for some reason, I had just separated the two. And I thought like, oh, I can't write like a normal human being. That's not possible. I have to do this, the study practice, or the studied writing style. And so I think once I got the mechanics of your writing style down, I think that really opened everything up because I'm a strong writer. It was just the application was inaccurate. That
Yeah.
makes
I get a lot of questions from potential students about whether or not they should invest in the coaching calls. And we had a lot of them. There were days when you were happier and days when you were less happy.
sense.
But what would you tell people about the coaching calls and the value that they held for you?
I think having failed so many times, I think it's essential to have the coaching calls. I think you're a great teacher. I think you're very honest, which is what I personally needed. And I think a lot of my success is contributed to having really targeted feedback. And so I think the coaching sessions are a great investment, whether you do 15 or I think the other option is 25.
Yeah.
Either one will be great, but I think it's definitely worth it and essential to bar success.
That's great. So you go in, you take the exam, you've got those 2 days, you've flown out from California. I think you came out to New York a little bit early, didn't you, to kind of adjust your time zone?
I did. I was sleep training for like 3 weeks before because I remember you said to try to do that. And then my family is from New York, so I was able to stay at home and get on that time zone, and was thankfully able to get off work for a month to be able to really focus. But I'm grateful that I at least did the sleep training because that helped me adjust and it didn't hamper my
Yeah.
studies.
Yeah, I think that's a big deal. So you finish the exam, you get a little family time. That's got to be nice,
Mhm.
and then you head back and you're waiting for results, right? And of course, as you say, New York, we don't know when results come out in New York. They just show up and they pop in. So you get the results, you find out you passed. Obviously, it's a big emotional moment. Um, After you stop crying and you sort of gathered yourself, what did you think? I mean, what was that moment like?
I mean, I really felt like I was living in a movie musical. Like everyone was singing, the sun was shining, birds were chirping everywhere. Yeah, it was just beyond belief that something I've been fighting so hard for has finally come true. And it's like, I can actually do this. And I'm not saying I'm going to take the California bar, but at least I have more confidence to approach
Yeah.
that. Um, but yeah, I'm still just smiling every day. It's just such a relief, and I feel like this whole world has opened up to me professionally that I feel like I worked really hard for and that I've earned. So I'm
Yeah.
just happy.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get you to do this or not because you're a pretty reserved person, but I do love it. As you know, we like to say, I have my life back. And I love it if I can get people to just sort of let loose, I have my life back. Are you willing to try that with me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. We're going to count it down and then we'll just both yell it together. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Ready?
Yep.
Loosen up here. All right. 3, 2, 1. I
I have
have.
my life back.
Okay, I like that, Jennifer. I like that. That's awesome. I think there's a real release in all of this and feeling like you get your life back, isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah,
It just feels like I'm no longer in this perpetual loop of uncertainty.
yeah. That's amazing. What did your family say? What was it? What was this like for them?
My family was over the moon. I think the dog was indifferent.
Okay,
But yeah, my dad was real quick. Within hours, I had like a dozen roses. Just very
that's a
happy.
power move, Dad. That's a power move. Okay,
Yeah, so they were so happy. I went into the office and like was just bawling, and then everybody at the office gave me a standing ovation. I had cupcakes and champagne. It was just everyone was just really happy. My parents were just so proud. My grandparents called me. They were happy.
good. I ask about that because I know that there are people who are watching and listening today, Jennifer, who are in the depth of despair. They can't pass, nothing's working. It just feels so awful to them. And I think it's important to recognize that there is an end to this journey. You can have success, right? And it is so sweet when it happens. What would you say to those people who are feeling down right now? They got their results from whatever jurisdiction and they failed. What would you tell those people right now?
I would tell them a couple of things. I think first, keep going. Just because you didn't pass the first attempt doesn't mean that you won't pass the next round or even the round after that. I'd also tell them what other people think doesn't matter. You have your own journey, and it's really easy to criticize struggles that you don't understand. And your struggle may be real, it may be difficult, it may be disappointing, but other people have no say in your experience. I would also say be open to new things. There's probably nothing wrong with what you did and what you trained for. It might just not be the right approach for you, and that's fine. Just be open to having an alternative plan and always just keep going.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I think, particularly that idea of just finding what works best for you and recognizing that not every approach is going to work equally well for everybody, because you certainly had the ability, you certainly had the drive, you had the discipline. You were great about always doing your work, getting it into me, conferencing about it. So there was never a question about any of that. I think it was so much of it was just moving your mindset from, frustration and disappointment to belief, and then really moving forward. I think the Paraliminals helped. I think photo reading helped. I meant to ask you earlier when we were talking about photo reading, did you use mind maps?
Yes, I was actually on the airplane drawing my mind maps from California to New York. I think people were staring at me, but that's fine. But yes, I did do mind maps, and I think for some of the trickier subjects, it actually helped me visualize how everything works together. Um, yeah, there are certain subjects that were pretty easy for me to pick up and recognize, but I really used them or leveraged them for the more difficult, complex topics that just weren't as transparent to me.
Yeah, I really love the mind mapping approach. It's a great way to consolidate what you've photo read, what you've heard in the lectures, what you've been doing in question practice, and then putting all that together and having a visual representation of it that you could go back and rely on. And I'm assuming that when you got to New York in the few days before the exam, you were reviewing those mind maps that you created.
Yeah, so I did the nights before. I don't even think I really reviewed any of the materials. I just reviewed the mind maps. And then the day before, I think I did maybe a handful of MBE questions just to get my brain working, and didn't check the answers, but just went through a couple just so that I was exercising that muscle. But yeah, the night before, I wasn't referencing the materials at all, because it's like I've done all that I can do. No amount of last minute cramming is going to help.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's been a terrific journey for you, and I am so proud of you. I just have to say, I just burst with pride, because I know how much you wanted this. I know, that you didn't always, you weren't the most dramatic person I worked with, but you were certainly the hardest working, and it was great to see your success and see you kind of coming into yourself as this process went on. I'm very excited about what the future holds for you, whether it includes the Cal Bar or not. Just the fact that you can be barred in New York and all these other states means you have lots of options and lots of things that you can do. The world has certainly changed in terms of portability of law licenses. So I think that you're on the cutting edge of that. I'm excited to see what happens and where you go. I know that you've been a part of our community. I hope you'll continue to be, because you've got great advice and wisdom to offer. And I'm deeply appreciative that you would share your story. I know that it's a big deal. And there are certainly people out there listening and watching today who are going, wow, wow, I want that. I want what she's got. I want to go to Star Wars, Galaxy's Edge. Any final comments or advice that you would offer to people?
I just want to say thank you so much for being patient with me and working with me. From the bottom of my heart, I don't think you'll ever know how grateful I am for this whole experience. Yeah, I'm just really happy.
I can't add anything to that. It's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed working every minute with you. So thank you so much, Jennifer, and congratulations. And I think we're going to stop right there, because that's a great place to stop and end up. And we'll see you again on another interview. But thank you, Jennifer. And bye-bye, everybody.